everyone. Welcome to Road America. My name is Rob Howden, the voice of the USF Pro Championship, presented by Continental Tire. And with a full day of action yesterday on track here, testing for all the drivers, 2 one-hour sessions for both USF 2000 and USF Pro 2000. Now it's time to go to work. They practiced earlier today. We've got back-to-back qualifying sessions for you here on this fantastic 4-plus mile racetrack in Wisconsin. USF Pro 2000 will be on the racetrack first, followed by USF 2000. A doubleheader for the USF 2000 drivers, tripleheader for USF Pro 2000, meaning they have another qualifying session later on today. But again, it's so tough here at this racetrack. You have to find the speed. You have to roll the corners, the hard-braking corners in 1 and 5. And, of course, Canada Corner. Qualifying is an art form. You want to get that fast lap done near the end of the session. You're thinking about open racetrack. But if you can find someone on that fast lap to get the draft, that could put you in P1. We're getting set to roll here, folks. Time to get on track to see what these drivers can do outright pace-wise.
You can feel confident Continental is the smart choice in tires.
Can they handle extremes?
Yep. Tested from the Texas desert to near the Arctic Circle.
Really?
Really.
Anything for the guy who finds that one pothole?
Yeah. Road hazard coverage has your back.
For real?
Absolutely.
Were they made by, like, a bajillion engineers?
Well, closer to 100. Continental. Welcome to the smart choice in tires.
Over the years, we've chased down a lot of dreams, each one leading to the next, all the way to our most electrifying dream yet. Introducing the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue. Made to inspire the newest generation of dreamers so they can make their dreams a reality. The all-new, all-electric Prologue from Honda.
2 full sessions yesterday for the drivers in USF Pro 2000. 1-hour sessions to dial in their cars, and this morning as well, a 30-minute practice, the official practice session, all to get these cars the best they can for qualifying. Yeah, standing on top of the podium in victory lane is key, but the first step is trying to get yourself up front. Pole will be the best. First couple of rows, ideal as well. Qualifying about set to go. There'll be 2 qualifying sessions for USF Pro 2000. A triple header weekend here as part of the Elite Engines Grand Prix of Road America. My name is Rob Howden, the voice of this USF Pro Championships, and it is a different weekend here at Road America. Just 62 degrees here. Trackside right now, a mix of cloud and blue skies. It's the wind we're going to have to talk about here right now. I had a chance to chat with Danny Dashelski, driver for Turn 3 Motorsports, and I asked him about the wind, and his quote was, "It's a mess." He said it's you don't know what it's going to be in any corner. It'll be different in one corner. You get down to Canada, it's in your face. Up to turn 1, it's pushing you from the back. It's a mess, as Dashelski says. But that's going to make things very interesting here in qualifying. Only 1 lap used in this session here. This will be qualifying for race number 1. When we go qualifying for the second run here at 1 o'clock this afternoon, it'll be for race 2 and 3. So, again, 1 magic lap, 20 minutes of green flag running within a 30-minute window. If we go green to checker, it'll be just 20 minutes long. Drivers have to get the job done. As always here when we are at Road America, I'm joined by the voice of this track, Eric Miller. Eric, great to be back with you again here in the booth. Always a pleasure. Thanks for welcoming me into your home.
Absolutely, and we always appreciate you being here. It's always a fun weekend. We give each other a lot of a hard time, but very honestly, it's always great to have this series here. And even we get later in the year when the juniors come to visit us at Road America. This racetrack is something special, and it really lends itself well to these Tatis chassis cars.
What I love about it as well, too, is it's kind of the midway point of the season. I mentioned this in practice earlier today when we were just on the PA here trackside, is the fact that even if you're a rookie, you're kind of not a rookie by the time you get to Road America. You've been on the streets of St. Petersburg. You've run the road course at Indianapolis. You've been on the oval at IRP. So you've done all 3 of the disciplines already. So you've got a feel for everything. This is where the rookies kind of pull off that stripe, and they can really step to the forefront. We've seen a lot of rookie drivers do very well, even win here as freshmen.
Well, you know, that's the one advantage that this series has, especially with the ladder, is you are racing USF Pro 2000 now. This is USF USF Pro, but many of these competitors all moving up have experience at this track. So it's nothing new to learn for some of the competitors. There's a few that this is their first trip, but you look at the overall experience of this group of drivers, and they're honing their skills now. Now they're at the pointy end of the beginning of their career professionally racing, right? So you look at the way that this series shapes up. You've got a lot of drivers, even with that little R next to their name, but they're not a rookie at this racetrack.
That's
so
it.
now it's time to put what you've learned in the first half of the season. Now it's time to go game on and race for the championship.
And this could be your third time here. If you ran 2 years in USF 2000, this will be your third time here. And it's almost like a saddle series, I'll say, kind of straddles the USF Pro Championships, Juniors, USF 2000, Pro 2000, but they're only 2 steps away from IndyCar. A lot of times those drivers start to realize that, man, I'm just 2 steps away. I win this championship. I'm running Indy next year, and potentially if I do well there, I'm an IndyCar. And again, we talk a lot about the success that this program has delivered. 6 of the last champions. We've talked about the fact that 4 of the drivers, Rinus VK, Kyle Kirkwood, Stingray Robb, and Christian Rasmussen, have all won the championship and are now in IndyCar. And then you've got Louis Foster coming off a victory in Indy next at Detroit. Miles Rowe, hard charger in that event. Those 2 drivers destined for IndyCar as well. So that's proof positive. If you win a championship in the USF Pro 2000 category, you're likely going to IndyCar. And,
you know, the race or the qualifying lap record here at Road America, I don't think we're in any danger of seeing that record fall with the newer configuration with these Tatis chassis. But David Malukas, the big news today, of course, going to be running for Meyer Shank in the IndyCar series in the 66 car for the remainder of the season, starting at Laguna. But he's got the lap record, the 159.81. Of course, we're not going to get anywhere near that lap record, I don't think, this weekend here in qualifying. But it just proves, Rob's point of, you win the championship here, you win races here, and you move on and you get the opportunity to race in the NTT IndyCar series. So, qualifying shapes up a little bit differently here. You see a lot of cars right now, really kind of heavy traffic as you come out of pit lane. They're going to start to see this field kind of stretch out a little bit, I would imagine. Maybe 1 or 2 cars looking to maybe get a tow, but I think you want a little bit of space here just to get a good banker in first.
The key right now is that, during the practice session, they ran what we call a carryover set of tires, right? So there's an opportunity to run a used set of tires in practice. Now they've got fresh Continentals on. With a triple header, they have 4 sets of tires to use through 2 qualifying sessions and 3 races. When do you use the fresh tires? So they're all out here on brand new sticker tires, right? Sticker Continentals. So right now, it's just warming the tires up, right? Let's get these tires warmed up. Do it correctly. Let's not overcook them. Let's make sure we get them up to temp. And then the drivers are going to start feeling, where do I go? Where do I back off to get that open track? We saw there's a couple of drivers we saw sat in pit lane a bit because they didn't even want to get out that early. Some may scuff a set of tires in 1 lap, come in, take those off, and use them for the race. As we know, 1 little heat cycle on a tire is going to provide good consistency when you go racing. As the drivers had some trouble down into turn number 1, some contact into 1, and a driver has gone off the outside of the track there. That's not what you want to see early.
No, definitely not in this qualifying session. Of course, here at Road America, we're going to qualify using the alternate timeline, and that's going to be consistent through most of the qualifying sessions here this weekend. Tell us why that alternate timeline is really so critical here at Road America for a lot of these groups.
Yeah, the beauty of the alternate timeline, which is right before turn number 14, is that you can lay the time down. It comes up on live timing. You know what it is on your dash as well, and you can come right into pit lane. It's not like you're coming across start finish and essentially blowing a lap going all the way back around. And this is the longest lap we run all year long, right? So if you get yourself caught out, you're able to come right in, make that change, or realize, hey, if I had a mistake coming through Canada, circle it back up again and right back on the power to get to the next lap. You can give up a lap if you have to. If you're in traffic, give up a lap knowing that you're going to go back on the clock when you come out of turn number 13.
A little side-by-side action coming off of turn 8 underneath the Speedville Bridge into the carousel. Here at Road America. This is one of those areas at Road America where there's a really large runoff area on the exit of turn 8 here, but don't let that extra patch of asphalt fool you. It is not smooth. and it can really kind of cost you a little bit of lap time. You want to keep it between the painted lines here at Road America, especially in this qualifying session.
Let's look at who was quick in practice earlier today. Those are the guys we'll expect to see up front. Lockie Hughes was the quickest, second place in points. We've had a lot of stuff happen, some controversy in the series, and technical disqualification for the car of Nikita Johnson in race number 2 at Indianapolis. He had extra points taken off as well, which really hurt. Was a massive lead for Nikita. It's now just 1 point after Nikita got in the wall in an incident with Ethan Ho in the Freedom 90 at IRP. A 1 point advantage now for Nikita Johnson over Lockie Hughes. Jace Denmark, Liam Skeets, and Hunter Yaney, the remainder of the top 5. Yaney on the sidelines right now with budget issues, so that's going to allow Christian Brooks to go up into P4. But it was Hughes P1 from D-Force Racing. George Garcia Arce was second. Frankie Mossman for Jay Howard Driver Development, very quick in the afternoon session yesterday, and third today, so there's pace there for that single car effort. Mossman out of California. Matt Clark, the Canadian former USF Juniors champion, in fourth, and Ricardo Scotto for BN Racing now into the top 5 in the practice this morning. Right now, as we get rolling though, Matt Clark P1.
Fastest lap of the weekend here in USF Pro. Lockie Hughes had the 2:04.3. This is a 2:04.2. Really impressive lap for Matt Clark.
We're not going to see anything close to the track record. You mentioned that for David Malukas, the track record, but that was back with the old car. We didn't have the halo, which is obviously adds a lot of weight to the top of the car, raises the center of gravity. We also, from then, actually we dialed down the horsepower at that point. We were 280 horsepower to provide the engine with more longevity. We backed it down to 250, changed the RPM range. So we're never going to get back to those times. But what we have now is a car that provides so much reliability to our drivers. So although they're still setting super fast laps, we're not going to see anything to the speed that David Malukas set back in 2018. Up front, as we said, Matt Clark leading the way right now. Ricardo Escoto in second. Lockie Hughes in third. Danny Dashelski in fourth spot. Braden East for Exclusive Autosport. But just 2 laps into this, closing in on the halfway point. As I said, it's a 30-minute window, Eric, but 20 minutes of green flag racing. If we go green to checker for 20 minutes, that's all we'll get. So they've got to get the job done. And again, we can look at a top 5 right now. It's going to come late in the run for sure.
Well, I think one of the things we talked about in the practice session as well, these Continentals take a good 2, 3, 4 laps to kind of come up to temperature to get to their best grip adhesion to the racetrack. Sun's also out on half of the racetrack. Some of the racetracks got under cloud cover, so now you've got different grip levels through different ends of the racetrack.
Thinking strategy too, I didn't get a chance to talk to any of the team owners. A lot of times they're tight-lipped about what they're going to do anyways, but we've seen a number of drivers come into pit lane here right now. As I mentioned, go out, set the banker lap. You talked about that. Let's get a really good lap in, but then we only do a couple of laps.
Braden Eves, a 2:04.1.
Well, I think we had a 2:03.2, I think.
Yeah.
So we're going to it was 2:03.2 for Lockie, so we're still a ways off that.
Yeah. But Braden Eves, what a great lap.
Great lap for him. Braden, again, like I said, got into it at the end of the first session yesterday. Had a suspension failure down into 3, went off and got lightly into the tires in turn 3. The team worked their tail off to try to potentially get him out for the second session. They weren't able to do it, so he's a full session behind right now. Let's see if he's able to pick it up. But again, right now, a lot of these drivers coming in, Eric, I think taking those tires off, they've scuffed a set. That's one of the sets of tires that they will use for the races here. Again, 3 races for USF Pro, and they'll be back on track again at 1 o'clock for qualifying number 2.
Yeah, and when you're banking these laps early in the session, because you do know that there's going to be somebody at the end of the session that's been struggling on pace, they may have bolted on another set of stickers just to try to figure out something that's wrong with the car. They're going to start all the races on scuffed tires, but this is one of those situations where you've got to get that banker lap in early just in case there is a late session red.
It's a half an hour window, right? Like I said, if there's a couple of red flags and all of a sudden you've got guys with maybe 2-3 laps, but they haven't laid one down yet, that doesn't work. You got to get at least 1 or 2 good ones in the books, because as we said, when it comes to the second qualifying session, you'll need 2 laps there. The fastest lap in session number 2 will set the grid for race 2. The second fastest lap provisionally will be the lap you'll use for race number 3. So maybe more crucial to get 2 really good laps in when we qualify again at 1 o'clock. But this one here, outright pace to set the grid for race number 1. Still up top, Braden East for Exclusive Autosport, coming off that victory in the Freedom 90 at Indianapolis Raceway Park on the Oval. And Eric, he's a winner here as well. Scored the victory back in 2022 when he was running with Jay Howard Driver Development.
So no stranger to the pointy end of the field, but Braden Eves still quickest here in the section. I would anticipate that as we get maybe to about the 5 minute to go mark here, we're going to start to see a couple more laps get into the 203s here.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see a high 2. That would not surprise me because, again, Lockie Hughes in his session at 203.297. So there's a possibility low 3s, high 2s maybe. We'll see. If it, again, it's all about temperature too, right? It was 62 degrees here right now. If the wind picks up, maybe it's going to be tougher. As Dashelski told me, it's a mess out there. It's just so tough, the wind coming in from different directions, and it's different from corner to corner. He says, I was down into turn 1, and it kind of pushed me from the back. Then I rolled through the next lap, and it was kind of more of a side wind. So he said in session number 1 yesterday, it was literally throwing the car around, moving the car around on the track.
If you've got a northwesterly wind here at Road America, it's coming from 12 to 1, and I can't imagine how much lift that rear wing is going to get on turn in, because you've got somewhat of a tailwind, but it's also a crosswind coming across as you dive in at apex. That's going to upset the balance of the car quite considerably going into turn 1, and then you got to do it again in turn 3. This time the front's planted because you got another 20 pounds of downforce because of the extra 20-mile-an-hour wind.
And it's just such a fast corner, turn number 1 too. They're rolling so much speed through there, and sometimes even side by side. You see another driver coming. That's Matt Clark in the number 7. I bet he's been out to get tires. There's Braden Eves in the number 92 for Exclusive Autosport as well in the Corpay machine. Those drivers trying to gap themselves, figure out where to be. You can see they're warming up the tires a little bit. One of the things when you're coming back out with fresh tires, you have to be cognizant of the drivers around you, right? If somebody's on a flyer, you can't hold them up because you're trying to warm your tires up. You need to know who is around you. Your spotter's got to help you out. The tough thing is the spotter, where are you? Maybe over in turn 5, up at the top of the hill in turn 6. It's tough, and the spotter can't see the entire track, but they're doing the best they can to let you know who's coming around you.
Well, the other drawback to that is, as you're warming up your tires, you've now got to go offline to let those drivers that are on a flyer by. Now what are you picking up? You're picking up all the marbles and dust off of the top of the racing surface on these hot tires as you start to get them warmed up. So you got to be cognizant of the fact that Simon Sykes goes P1.
Yeah, last year's USF 2000 champion to the top of the charts by just over a tenth of a second from Braden Eves. Simon Sykes, the number 18 for Pabst Racing, quickest driver on the track right now. You'll see the USF Pro Championship scholarship livery on his car. Same with Nicholas Giaffoni, last year's USF Juniors champion, running in the USF 2000 category. Sykes P1, Eves in 2nd, Matt Clark in 3rd, Danny Dashelski in 4th, and Nicholas Baptiste in 5th. And we talk about the quality of this program. 5 different teams in the top 5 right now. Pabst exclusive, D-Force, Turn 3, and BN Racing is the Colombian Nicholas Baptiste, now up into 5th. Quickest from practice this morning, Lockie Hughes currently 6th. Ricardo Escoto 7th, and here comes Chase Denmark to P1. The driver from Scottsdale, Arizona, now living in Indianapolis, has gone to P1. 2nd place at the Freedom 90 just a couple of weeks ago.
Sykes back to
I was going to say, his teammate Simon Sykes says, whoa, slow your roll. I'm back to the top. Pabst Racing,
203.2. 203.2 for Simon Sykes. Great lap.
Do we see the 2? Because remember, 5.5 minutes remaining, burning off that fuel. Cars are getting lighter and lighter. These tires, we've talked all about it with these drivers. The sweet spot will hang on for quite a while, and as these cars get lighter, they're going to go quicker. Sykes, Denmark, Ricardo Escoto now up into 3rd. Brooks in 4th, Braden Eves P5. 5 minutes to go, and we'll take the opportunity right now to say hello to those of you who are watching on the YouTube channel or potentially on the USF Pro Championships app. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's going to be a fantastic weekend here. So much racing. None of it today. Qualifying all day today. Eric, 4 races tomorrow. Oh, driver's gone off. Sorry. Driver all the way off into the gravel coming out of turn 14.
Keeps the car rolling and stays off of the tire barrier. So that's where you just got to bury your foot and try to keep the car rotating through and back underway. A little bit too far past the pit inlet, so that car is going to circulate with a little bit of debris on the tires. So we'll watch for a surface condition here, and that is again the 33.
Tyke Durst pushing hard through turn number 14. He was off as well in the practice session this morning over in turn 5. But again, Eric, we're pushing how hard. 14's a tough corner, and you have to get on the power early there because that's the run down into 1. If you're late on the power, you're just not going to have the speed. Tyke continues to push hard.
Well, when you're looking at that exit off of 14, you've got that considerable elevation change. So you've got to be on the power, but you've got to get as much momentum up the hill as you can. You've got to carry as much speed through center corner off at 14. And that's where we see a lot of drivers get caught out, is on the rumble strips on the exit of 14. You're pushing the apex so hard, maybe a late turn in, maybe an early turn in, but you're putting yourself way outside, trying to get as much of a distance between the center of the apex to the outside rumble strip.
And you think about the transition here. You come up out of Canada corner, the car is so light you can't see anything. You crest the hill, you're on the right side of the track, you got to bring it back to the left side. All that weight transfer too. You have to make sure you got that thing lined up when you're rolling onto the brakes coming into 14 and then back onto power. It's such a precise corner, and we're seeing it from a bunch of drivers up front now. 2:02.9. I thought we'd get into the high 2:02s. We do a 2:02.913. Simon Sykes goes P1. Lockie Hughes up into second. Jace Denmark third. Danny Jashelski fourth. Ricardo Scotto fifth. Christian Brooks runs sixth. Frankie Mossman seventh. Braden Eves eighth. Matt Clark ninth. Ethan Ho rounding out the top 10. Nikita Johnson, the point leader, down in 13th position. Wow.
Not where you want to be.
Nowhere. This race, when guys can get away early, tough. 3 minutes remaining, though. That's going to be a couple of laps for these drivers, very likely at 2:02s. One driver into pit lane. That will be it for him for that session. One of the pass cars, I think.
We've talked about how starting middle of the field doesn't help you, but it doesn't necessarily always hurt you here at Road America either. Sometimes trouble starts up front, and you're able to capitalize on that, where we've seen drivers start shotgun on the field after maybe a penalty in years past and be in the top 5 by lap 2.
And listen,
this is a long lap to make up some distance.
And you talk about the racing, right? There's a lot of opportunities. Who came into pit lane? Looks like potentially, I think that's Logan Adams who's come into pit lane. Logan currently in the 15th spot, so that'll be it for the privateer effort for Comet Racing in Newcastle Motorsports Park. A lot of times you don't want to be in the mid-pack, right? Because that's kind of where the chaos happens. The leaders get through. This is a track where, because of the long front straightaway after the green, we're 3 wide sometimes going into 1, and 3 wide going down into, of course, 3 and 5 as well. So you're right. Sometimes the chaos can happen up front, not just when you're mired in mid-pack.
You put yourself in the danger zone no matter what in the middle of the field. You've got to race smart. And in that circumstance, these Road America laps are extremely long, so there is a little bit of distance that you can make up when you have a disadvantage of starting mid to back of the pack. But these drivers have a tendency to try to win it on the first lap sometimes. They're young, and even us old KG veterans do that too. But this is the time where, when you don't have a good qualifying effort, how do you make yourself have a good day?
Well, so this is the thing. Because it gets so chaotic in 1, 3, and 5, and guys are 3 wide, we've seen guys come from deep in the field and just drive around the outside of everybody. When people are kind of stacked up on the bottom of 3, you drive around the outside. They are getting caught up coming out of 3. You get a better run. You're passing 2 guys down into 5. They'll be 3 wide up to 6 as well. So there is opportunities for mid-pack to make it up a lot when guys check themselves up. We are into the final minute now. These drivers coming up the hill, you see this will be their final lap. That's Lockie Hughes right there. He's currently in the 2nd spot. A couple more of the turn 3 cars coming up the hill, as we did with one of the TJ Speed machines. Sykes, Hughes, Jashelski now up to 3rd. The 16-year-old goes P3. Denmark 4th. Christian Brooks now rounding out the top 5. Here's 2 of the turn 3 drivers side by side into 1. That'll have Peter Dempsey up on the seat watching his drivers go side by side through that quick corner. What will be the final lap of qualifying. 2:02.9 for Simon Sykes is the fastest lap so far, coming off a victory at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Road Course. His first win in USF Pro 2000 after winning the championship in USF 2000 last year. Sykes, Hughes, Jashelski, Denmark, and Brooks, the current Fast 5, as we're rolling our way through this qualifying session, getting ready to wrap things up. No doubt about it. We've got, again, USF 2000 qualifying coming up here immediately as well. Sykes would love it. P1 would be fantastic for this driver, who is a little further back in the points right now, 8th, but that victory helped him out. He had a really good run going on the oval, but an issue there took him out of that one, so didn't get the points he wanted. Checker flag has been displayed, so this is it. Final lap. Does anybody have anything for Sykes, Hughes, Jashelski, Denmark, and Brooks? It would be, as they run now, Brooks and Scotto on row number 3.
The key here, just looking at this timing right now, 4 out of the top 5 positions all have that little R next to it. They're certainly not qualifying like that right now.
Exactly that. Frankie Mossman just put a lap down. He goes to P2 by just over a tenth. So a great run there for Mossman, but everybody coming through the final time. You saw one of the TJ speed cars there, a little oversteer coming into corner entry. This is the final lap. Cars are as light as they could be. Lockie Hughes has gone to P1. 2:02.8 or 2:02.6. A 2:02.68. Lockie Hughes has stolen the pole away from Simon Sykes as he's still on the racetrack. Final drivers coming out of Canada Corner and up through Billy Mitchell Bend to cap things off in qualifying. Here they are. Look at the bunch of drivers still rolling down through Kettle Bottoms. That's Christian Brooks right there. One of the TJ speed cars coming as well. Who is still left out there? I don't see Simon Sykes. He may have already come in. Watching them roll through here. Checker flag has been thrown. Does anybody have anything for Lockie Hughes with a 2:02.6? Yeah, he found 6 or 7 tenths of a second from practice to qualifying with those new tires. And waiting for the final drivers to come across the line. I think that might have been Charles Finelli as the last driver to come across the stripe. So indeed, Lockie Hughes, it was Simon Sykes for majority of the second half of that run, but Lockie Hughes in the 44. That's a bonus point. He is now tied for the point lead with Nikita Johnson. So Hughes, the rookie who won a number of races last year in USF 2000, finds himself P1 by 2 tenths over Simon Sykes.
So the one thing that I would notice, though, Frankie Mossman put in a whale of a lap on lap 4. Everybody else has run 8 to 9 laps. Mossman was late coming off of pit lane, waiting for some open track.
Interesting.
So interesting to see how what they went out with tires on, saving the tires a bit there maybe for Mossman.
Well, the 4 laps means he only used 1 set. He didn't scuff a set. He only used 1 set of tires. So Frankie Mossman, P3, that could play in. Could he have a nice fresh set of tires come race number 3 on Sunday morning?
That may be
right?
a very interesting strategy moving forward this weekend.
So Hughes, Sykes, Mossman, Deschelski, and Escoto, the top 5. Jace Denmark in 6th. Christian Brooks in 7th. Nicholas Baptiste in 8th. Matt Clark in 9th. And Liam Skeets rounding out the top 10. Braden Eves, who was P1 for a time, now in the 11th position. But again, there's the rest of the field there. And what was a solid session, top 17 drivers all within 2 seconds. So all told, a very solid run for the drivers here in USF Pro. And I'll say this right now, green to checker as well. That makes me happy that they were able to get things done without having to go in for another yellow flag. So a great run for them again into qualifying. As we said, USF Pro 2000 has had their qualifying session. We are set to go about 20 minutes away, I think, before we roll again. USF 2000 drivers will be next up. And we'll see the USF Pro drivers back on track for qualifying too at 1 o'clock. So there you have it, folks. USF Pro 2000, Lockie Hughes, the pole sitter in that category.
Continental is the smart choice in tires.
Can they handle extremes?
Yep. Tested from the Texas desert to near the Arctic Circle.
Really?
Really?
Anything for the guy who finds that one pothole?
Yeah. Road hazard coverage has your back.
For real?
Absolutely.
Were they made by like a bajillion engineers?
Well, closer to 100. Continental. Welcome to the smart choice in tires.
Over the years, we've chased down a lot of dreams, each one leading to the next, all the way to our most electrifying dream yet. Introducing the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue. Made to inspire the newest generation of dreamers so they can make their dreams reality. The all-new, all-electric Prologue from Honda.
Early June has always been the trip to Road America, essentially halfway through the season, with the first half was fantastic. The trip to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, always big bucket list for so many of the drivers, and the excitement was at another level, as it always is at IMS. So many great storylines, and what a better place to look at them than through the climb. Our mini documentary available, of course, on the YouTube channel and the USF Pro Championships app. While we wait to go qualifying for USF 2000, let's have a look at the newest episode of The Climb.
Test, test.
Long time no see. We're at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, racing capital of the world, baby.
The fabulous Indianapolis Motor Speedway, my new home track.
Ever since I was a little boy, when I started my racing career, my dream has always been to be the youngest winner of the Indianapolis 500. Racing here at IMS is just, it kind of almost awakens something inside of you, you know, like you're racing where the 500 is, where the Indy cars are, almost like a little view into the future.
This place is magical, and I think winning here would mean a bit extra. I think Toronto, still a little bit above it, but it's definitely my second favorite place on the calendar, and to win in front of not only all the fans, but like the IndyCar team owners as well, makes it pretty cool.
So moving from Arizona to Indianapolis has been a big change, but it's something that I love. I've got my finger on the pulse of IndyCar and everything that's happening at the racing capital of the world. And
like more than ever, and super driven, especially after the weekend I had in Old. To come back and hopefully win. During that month of between races, it was hard for me, especially after that long stretch of testing, race, to get back in a normal groove. You had to go back to school for a month, and I was being 16 years old at the end of your junior year is kind of the hardest part of the high school year. Yeah, it was a lot of studying, a lot of schoolwork. It was nice to not have a race during that time, which made my life so much easier. In the past with high school, usually next week is finals week, so I'd always be here the week before finals and scrambling, but yeah, I'm done with finals, everything's good with, so it's nice to have school behind and not have to worry about it for a few months.
It's good. I'm done school. I finished my my sophomore year, as you Americans would say, in school, and I'm really enjoying life at home, in a steady training schedule, and I actually took a little vacation right before this weekend, so I'm feeling good.
for me, my normal life is doing everything that I can to stay in a race car. So, there are times where I sit back and I play my guitar and I learn new music and, go to do whatever. That's part of my personal life. But really my day-to-day is working hard at staying in the car and being on the phone and active in the places I can be and doing the most, really, while I'm here in Indianapolis to make sure that I have a future in IndyCar. And it's that kind of never quit mentality, so even when I'm not driving the car, I'm doing everything possible to make sure I'm there.
So starting off, I got into racing through Jimmy Johnson. That was my hero. I don't get starstruck by many people, but when I saw him in the paddock, because my first year in 2000 when I did partial schedule, he was running the full IndyCar paddock, or IndyCar season. So, I mean, dude, Jimmy Johnson was like my hero. I looked up to him. I still have a fat head sticker of him in my room. I was the biggest Jimmy Johnson fan. When I was like 8, I'd cry when he lost races. I was a diehard Jimmy Johnson guy.
I have a few drivers right now in the NTT IndyCar series that I definitely try to model myself after. I think it's like, any sport. You hear football players and they're coming up like, oh, Barry Sanders is my guy. Like, for me right now, it's Scott Dixon, right? So he's in the NTT IndyCar series, and the way that guy drives is the way I want to drive when I get there. So, you pick up small things like watching film, old race rewind, stuff like that.
I've always looked up to Scott Dixon a lot, just his driving style, the way he works. It's more this year what I'm kind of trying to model my style after. I used to, push too hard and force a lot of my own mistakes, cause issues, and just kind of shifted my mindset to, Scott Dixon, he'll finish where his car will allow him to finish instead of pushing over that limit. So that's kind of where I'm at this year. He's the greatest of all time in IndyCar, so I think if I can model myself to be like him, that's a pretty good model for sure.
I went 18th to 3rd here last year. I can do it again 17th to 1st, so let's see what we can do. It's a raceable track. We're going to fix the car and things are going to be good.
It's good to know that we're the fastest and we're on our own, so I think we're pretty confident for the races.
I do think we had a fight for pole if the red flag hadn't come on the last spot, but you can definitely race from P4. I'm relatively happy with that.
My first front row start in USF, the home race, pretty cool as well. And we have a lot more speed than what happened in qualifying as well. I flat spotted my first set of tires, so my fastest laps, whereas everybody else was going out and getting warmed up. So I passed somebody actually on my fastest laps. So I think we're the fastest car on track right now. To win here at the Speedway with all its historics, the place where I made my debut and my home race right now would mean a ton to me. If everything goes well in my career, I could be in an Indy car in the Indy 500 in 2 years, and nobody's going to change my mind about it.
We are green, and the move to the outside is Elliott Cox. He's thinking about the outside, Cooley down to the bottom. That's contact there already, and that is your point leader. That was Garcia who got shot. Garcia, your point leader. Like I said, you never know what's going to happen in these races. Bottom of the racetrack coming into turn number 1, side by side. Oh, contact there as well. Up over the curbing again, and that is the 67 of Cox. There's the checker flags, folks. Twin checkers are out, and look at the excitement for Max Taylor. He has won at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Huge run as well for Exclusive Autosport. They'll cap off the podium. Joey Brienza in second in the number 91, and Evan Cooley, the rookie, so super impressive.
Talent didn't just disappear overnight. I mean, I'm happy with the race, right? 7th or 2nd, wish I could have gotten him.
Sam went down my inside, he locked up, and I held around his outside, cleared him, and he just kept going straight, clipped my rear wheel. Still the front row start tomorrow, so come back stronger then.
It's going to be side-by-side lock up for Cooley. Oh, contact, and he's over. Big flip for Nico Christodoulou.
We will finish this race under caution.
Max Taylor is going to get second. Elliott Cox in third.
I'm just so happy to get a podium in my hometown, and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is amazing. Obviously, it's not the win, but looking forward to winning some races down the road, but definitely amazing to get a first podium.
I thought I was ready for that next step last year, so I'm itching to get into Indy next for sure. What I'm capable of in that car, I think there's going to be a good match made next year in 2025.
Well, I'll tell you this right now, I guarantee there are IndyCar team owners already looking at Nikita Johnson. This kid, again, you're only 2 steps away.
You know what I like? Every time you show up, you leave a mark. You show your presence. Winning here?
A brilliant run to this point as he has completely checked out from the rest of the field.
And indeed, the gap not only is big here on the racetrack, it's going to be big in the points as well.
We're blatantly cheating. I definitely want more action taken towards his previous wins. There needs to be something said and done. To be cheated like that is purely unacceptable and needs to be treated with an iron fist.
I don't have a lot of information to make a proper comment, but he's been very, very fast. So, if there is something there, then helps the rest of the field out a little bit, but we'll see.
Not really comment. I don't think it's an advantage. I mean, I've seen people not have it. USF2000 doesn't have it. So this whole weekend they've been trying to call us out for everything, tires, fuel. Everybody's been trying to throw shit out there, but I don't know. I mean, you can see they're all trying to accuse me of cheating, and then they go send a lap car out to go block me. It's a bit screwed in my opinion. So we'll have to see what the series does on that, but I don't really have any comments on that.
Field set, looking good. Green, 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 and we're underway. Simon Sykes going to try to hold the spot. Here comes the move for Lockie Hughes. Let's make it 3 wide.
That's the closest the 18 has been to the 17 in a while, and he has literally gone from a 1.3 second lead to a 0.65 second lead.
This is it. It was 0.6 of a second last time by as they come across, make it 0.3 of a second. Big draft for Simon Sykes. Will he move to the outside? He does. A little come across there as well. Sykes is going to go around the outside, and Johnson trying to hold the spot to the outside. Book it. He is through. Sykes takes over the lead. He'll come out of turn number 13 and 14 onto the front straightaway. And for the first time in USF Pro 2000 for this young driver to Georgia, Simon Sykes is a winner.
That took a while. We did it! Ah! I feel like a rough weekend just turned around in the biggest way. I haven't been able to catch a break, but man, Nikita got away and I thought he was gone, and then we started pulling it back little by little, and we got there.
Up next is the Oval.
The only extra points race on the calendar, the only oval on the calendar. It's a night race. A good weekend at the Oval could win you a championship down the road.
In our cars, it's fast. I'm really looking to have a good result there.
I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go get my revenge and, you know, show that last year doesn't define me as an oval racer.
You can feel confident Continental is the smart choice in tires.
Can they handle extremes?
Yep. Tested from the Texas desert to near the Arctic Circle.
Really?
Really.
Anything for the guy who finds that one pothole?
Yeah, road hazard coverage has your back.
For real?
Absolutely.
Were they made by like a bajillion engineers?
Well, closer to 100. Continental. Welcome to the smart choice in tires.
Over the years, we've chased down a lot of dreams, each one leading to the next, all the way to our most electrifying dream yet. Introducing the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue. Made to inspire the newest generation of dreamers so they can make their dreams reality. The all-new, all-electric Prologue from Honda.
welcome back to Road America, America's National Park of Speed. Rob Howden alongside Eric Miller, the voice of Road America, as we get set to roll in to the second of 3 qualifying sessions here on a Friday in Elkhart Lake. The drivers in USF 2000 getting ready to roll out a doubleheader for the drivers in USF 2000. So just the single qualifying session. So 2 laps will count. The first fastest lap, of course, setting the grid for race number 1. The second fastest lap provisionally setting the grid for race number 2. If they do go quicker in race 1 than their second fastest qualifying lap, they can use that lap to set the grid. Very crucial time for the drivers here in USF 2000, essentially coming up to the midpoint of the season here. 8 rounds in, 18 rounds all told. Mid-Ohio, Toronto, and Portland still coming, all 3 of those triple headers. So crucial weekend here. Championship kind of lining things up nicely. Really 3-4 drivers kind of in the championship fight now. But Eric, we can say this: you never know what can happen in a weekend like Road America. You can see the guy that's leading the points have 2 DNFs, blows everything wide open. Mid part of the season, we got some pretty impressive tracks. Really, think about that. Road America, Mid-Ohio, Portland, and of course Toronto, which has been around for 30-plus years.
And we talked a little bit about in the pro qualifying, where this is where you want to get yourself towards the front of the field. It's really important to start up front, but you also have to avoid trouble during this qualifying session as well. It's a quick turnaround. You know, for a lot of these drivers, when you look at this qualifying effort, solid banker lap, get a lap in, be mindful you don't want to get a red, during this qualifying session, but you also want to find a gap a little bit here. The toes help you here, but keeping it clean, critical here in qualifying.
This is what I find that's very funny, and I'll bring this up. I was texting with Steve Wittick from Trackside Online, and he laughed that we had a little bit of argy-bargy and some craziness in the USF Pro qualifying session. He literally said, because this track's long, as we know, right? Over 4 miles. 1,056 feet per car available, and they're tripping over each other, right? Like, there's so much room on this racetrack, but we still have guys that are literally side by side coming through a couple of the corners.
Steve's not wrong. There's a lot of real estate here.
So much.
Yeah.
Right?
And
take your time, find that. What happened to Frankie Mossman? Like you said, waited a bit, pulled out where there was an open gap. He had 4 strong, open, clear laps. He ends up going into the top 5.
And that's the biggest thing that you want to see in this qualifying session. Obviously, as all these drivers are coming off a pit lane, we see them stack 3-4 deep, but you see a little bit of gap starting to develop between the groupings. You want to get a little bit of a toe on the straightaway, maybe to get that initial lap going. Once you get tire temperatures up, maybe this first lap, you're looking for the toe, you're looking for some assistance to get to that alternate timeline. Again, for those of you that are here at Road America that may be a little bit newer to the qualifying session for this USF 2000 championship, the alternate timeline is the dashed line in turn 14, and you'll see it on a couple of camera shots, but that timeline is where we start and stop that qualifying effort. It's not here at the front stretch where you normally see qualifying times during some of our vintage weekends and other race weekends. It is going to be down in turn 14. The advantage of that is that they can dive right to pit lane, maybe abort a lap if they see that there's too much traffic in front. They can kind of back off a little bit and then go the next time. So this is where you want to be smart. You want to use the traffic around you to your advantage. You don't want the traffic to be a disadvantage for you.
And we'll see what happens in terms of tire strategy as well. With the 3 races in USF Pro, they get 4 sets of tires. With only 2 races for USF 2000, 3 sets of tires. So they're on a fresh set of Continentals right now. Will we see teams that we saw before just scuff a set of tires and use that in race number 2, put maybe 2 laps on them, put a banker lap in, and bring those tires in for race number 2, then use put another fresh set of tires on it, maybe have a fresh set for one of the races if you'd like to do that. We do have a great field of drivers here. Let's kind of have a look a little bit at some of the drivers and some of the storylines we have here. Max Garcia comes in as the point leader, has a pretty nice little 28-point lead right now over Evagoras Papasavas, but Evagoras has been unbelievably consistent throughout the season. Top 5s in 7 of the 8 races. Only an issue in the second race at IMS where he finished 19th. So he's been strong on the podium as well for 5 6 of those 8 races. Sam Corey currently in the 3rd spot. Max Taylor coming off a victory at Indianapolis, had a run of 3 podiums in a row, but then got into an incident on the oval race, the IRP Freedom 75. He's P4. And Elliott Cox having a very consistent run here right now as well. At least one driver making his USF 2000 debut here this weekend. That is Anthony Martella from Canada, running for Exclusive Autosport, one of our full-time USF Juniors drivers who is making the move up, joining Giovanni Cabrera and G3 Argyros, all coming up running in USF 2000 here this weekend. So we'll see how those rookies do. But up front, Garcia, Papasavas, Corey, Taylor, and Cox. All sophomore drivers, 2nd year in the series, no longer rookies, and they've kind of come to the forefront as we would have expected. Eric, we've seen over the last number of years some drivers coming in as rookies and winning championships. Kyle Kirkwood being one. Rookie championship in USF, rookie championship in Pro, rookie championship in Indy Lights. But normally the traditional route has been 2 years in each level. Learn the car, learn the program, win the next year, right? Learn, then win all the way up the ladder.
And winning in your rookie season can be a benefit, but it can also be a detriment. Sometimes you get to a point where you get someone that's a little bit more overconfident too, and that doesn't always necessarily translate to the next level as well, where sometimes you get almost too aggressive.
Sure.
And you start causing contact, you start maybe going into turn 1 a little bit deeper, and side by side, you put yourself in a position that's not beneficial. And in that situation, that's all part of that learning experience too for a lot of these younger competitors.
Indeed, 15 years of age, G3 Argyros with the fastest outlap at 2:11. Still a long way to go in terms of that. Max Taylor, Michael Costello, Ayrton Hauk, and Max Garcia, the Fast 5 on the opening lap. But now you're going to see drivers start to build some heat in the tires. Ideally, they'll gap themselves a little bit. When you're too close to someone coming through this particular corner we're seeing on screen right now, the carousel, that's when you get the aero wash. You've got to give yourself enough room coming through the carousel where you're not having some of that air you want rolling over the front wing dissipated by a car in front. You need to have all that air. And indeed, if you're following someone, maybe it's a half a width wider, Eric, to make sure at least you have a little bit of air coming over the left side of the wing.
You'll see a little bit of offset a lot of times going down into 12, where the driver, 2nd, 3rd place in line will go to that half car width or even a full car width out, and that's exactly what they're trying to do, is put downforce on the front of these cars. We talked a lot about the wind and how tricky it was going to be here this weekend, especially today on Fast Friday. Got a couple of cars coming to pit lane, and I think here's where you're starting to see some of the teams that are going for the scuff opportunity.
100%. Yeah, I want to say it may be Paps. Yeah, here comes Garcia, as well as the 23 of Sam Corey. He's in the pit lane. Here comes the 22 of Hudson Schwartz. So Pabst Racing electing to scuff a set that they will use in the race. You put a heat cycle on the tire, it's going to be even more consistent. We'll still have all that grip you need over the opening laps. We talk about having that kind of sweet spot where you get maximum grip. Once you put that first heat cycle in, that consistency will hold even longer on a set of tires. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some more teams come in here and eventually do that. They'll put a new set of Continentals on, 3 in total for them. Joey Brianza goes up to P1 on his outlap as well, 2:10.5. Taylor, Costello, Nicholas Giafodi, and Brady Golan now round out the top 5, but a long way to go. 20 drivers in total. Jace Bacon making his debut here in USF 2000 as well at Road America. Ran one race, I believe, earlier in the year at NOLA Motorsports Park. Brianza, Taylor, Costello, Giafoni, and Golan. Sam Corey now 6th, but again, remember, that's just a lap here and getting rolling. So underway with qualifying, 20 minutes, the same as we had for USF Pro 2000. It's a 30-minute window with 20 minutes of green. So right now, we are already rolling down. We've got 8.5 minutes already in of green flag running. Drivers are doing a great job so far.
Realistically, you're going to get maybe that 4 to 7 lap window in with about 5 minutes remaining. I think that's really the sweet spots for these Continental tires as well, is in that 4 to 8 lap distance window. You get the tires up to temperature. This qualifying session a little bit different than for Pro. Cloud cover all the way around rather than just half the racetrack. So the temperature isn't going to go down by much, but you do have some surface temperature to go down a little bit here, especially on the straightaway. Turn 1, turn 3, with less sunlight on the track, a little bit cooler track temperature as well. Ambient air this weekend in the mid-60s, maybe to 70 this weekend.
We're lucky,
These engines are going to really like the temperature aspect for the ambient temperature.
No doubt about that. They'll be singing like crazy. They'll love the engine. Steve Knapp and Logan Knapp will be absolutely loving it with these Elite engines. And again, this is their weekend. This is the Elite Engines Grand Prix of Road America. We'll have them helping out with trophy presentations. A number of guests joining us here from Elite Engines. Of course, they built all the power plants for the USF Pro Championships presented by Continental Tires. Juniors 2000, Pro 2000, all coming out of their West Bend shop. And they are trackside at all our events to service the engines throughout the race weekend as well. And indeed, coming down to the 10-minute mark here right now, I'm thinking 8, maybe 9 laps max that they'll be able to put in the books based on the time we have right now. Time's a little over the 2-minute mark. So Brienza's still on top, but again, waiting for that third lap to come in the books for many of the drivers here to see how things play out. About 2 seconds, I expect, for a majority of the field. Same thing we saw in USF Pro. There are some drivers a little outside that 2 minutes or 2 second window where they're still learning the program, dialing things in, getting more pace from lap to lap. That's one of the things, Eric. Guys up front, the pointy end, they're not finding a ton of speed. They had 2 one-hour sessions yesterday, a 30-minute session in the morning. They're going for that one big magic lap. It's the drivers who are newer to the program where they may start the weekend 5 seconds off the pace, but they're lopping off a half a second every time they roll onto the track. They may end up 3 seconds off the pace by the end of the weekend.
Absolutely. And this racetrack is known for having a little bit of a rhythm to it. This is not a racetrack where you have a stop start. Yeah, you have a little bit of a twisty bit, from 5 to 10. But realistically, this is a track where you really have to find your rhythm, and I think a lot of drivers, specifically in this younger set, it takes them a little bit of time to really find that rhythm. And once they do, that's when that half-second lop starts lopping off. And it just takes a couple of sessions. If this is only your first or second trip to Road America in this configuration of a car, maybe jumping out of from karts, maybe you didn't run juniors and you hopped right into USF 2000. But you look at a lot of these drivers as they start to get more track time, you see lap after lap the improvement, and that's all part of the process too. Especially learning these cars, learning the circuits that they're traveling to, is just simply getting seat time.
And listen, the biggest difference coming out of USF juniors up into USF 2000 is really the braking, right? There's another 30 or 40 horsepower when we pull the restrictor out, but the braking is different. They're different brake packages, so that's one of the things they have to learn is how to handle the brakes here. And I don't think there's a track on the circuit that relies more on you being a really solid braker than here. Turn 1, turn 3, turn 5. Canada, so even down into hurry downs, turn 8, you've got to be good on the brakes there.
This is a high commitment brake package for these long straightaways, and even the short straightaways, like you said, from 5 to 6, you're coming up the hill, you're actually braking going uphill, you're still on the binders at that, making that 90-degree corner,
blind,
and then you're back on the power, you're carrying rhythm through 7 into hurry downs, and then turn 8 is another downhill left-hander, just like 5. Maybe not as steep of a braking zone, but it's still enough that downhill rolling momentum, you've got to be very precise on your brake points. We talked last year a lot about this racetrack with the new pavement. A lot of those brake markers for those with the experience here are gone.
That's true.
Surface marks. Turn 14 is starting to get a little bit of character just because of where that corner is. You see a little bit of a pavement seam kind of developing in that turn 14 area, right where you see a traditional deep breaker go in. So some of those character things for this racetrack are starting to kind of come back now.
Which were braking markers at that point, right?
And a lot of times use them as a visual cue for brake markers.
Indeed. 7 minutes remaining in the session. Joey Brienza is still on top here right now, I believe, as he's been into pit lane and come back out. So 7 minutes still to go. Little less than 7. Brienza, Taylor, Costello, Papasavas, and Elliott Cox. Your current top 5. Your point leader down in 11th position. We saw Nikita Johnson back in 14th in USF Pro, the point leader coming in. He's now tied with Lockie Hughes after Lockie got a bonus point for going on the pole. Right now, Garcia all the way back at 11th. We expect him to find some more pace before it's all said and done. 6.5 minutes to go, so maybe 3 laps still to come. Joey Brienza for Exclusive Autosport up top here in the number 91. Brienza coming in here, 6th place in points, a couple of podiums, 3rd at NOLA Motorsports Park, 2nd in the opening race of a doubleheader at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, coming off a 9th place finish at Indianapolis Raceway Park on the oval. This would be a perfect opportunity to put himself right back in the championship discussion with a strong weekend.
Absolutely. And really, we see champions are made from consistency and being able to stay up front, podium finishes. You know, we're all looking for that win as a driver, right? We're looking for those W's. But in this championship, solid starts, qualifying point for starting on pole, never a bad thing, right? But being consistent, staying up front, finishing on the podium, really more critical than anything. It's all part of that learning process to make sure that you're putting that forward momentum for your career moving forward just as much as the race.
Make that part of your brand, right? Consistency is what every team owner wants. Bring the car home in one piece. Don't wreck the car. Guys up top right now, Max Garcia's got a bunch of wins, sure, but he has not finished outside the top 10 yet this year. And then you look at Evagoras Papasavas. Yeah, he has one DNF 19th, but the remainder of the 7 finishes all top 5. So he has been unbelievably consistent. Still hasn't bagged that first win of the year. He got one last year at Mid-Ohio, but he is just waiting for that first win, but banking those fantastic finishes while he is waiting for that victory. Again, watching the timing go here down to almost 4.5 minutes to go. Look at this battling. They're side by side coming through Kettle Bottoms. You wonder what you're doing. Whoever's on the inside line here, that is not going to get the job done. You've got to get out there and get open track and clean air.
And in that situation, I think whoever that was actually backing Canada corner up and making a gap.
Well, you can do that. So you give away that lap. I will say that. That's one of the strategy calls, knowing that the alternate timeline is coming up at a 13. If you don't have that lap, that's where you back it up. Come through, get on the power early coming out of Canada because you haven't rushed so much corner speed in, and then you're back up the hill. That's a quality move from a driver further back. I will say this. We mentioned Max Garcia down in 11th. No longer. How about P1? He goes from 11th to P1 and by a 10th over Brienza. So Max Garcia in the Advanced Auto Parts Pabst Racing, number 24, the Floridian. Now into P1. Brienza still holding on to second, but here comes Michael Costello. This kid's looking for his breakout win to make it happen. He's down in 13th in points. Has had some ups and downs. This could be a big weekend for him to be able to come out of the gate because he's been strong. He was strong yesterday in testing, and he was good in practice this morning. Costello could be a guy to watch for a race win here this weekend.
And we talked quite a bit at the outset of qualifying as well. When was our qualifying window? 4 to 8.
Yep.
Where are we right now? Lap 5.
Here it is.
Lap 6. We're in the window now where we're going to start to see some of these times kind of trickle down. Can we get sub 209 or sub 210 into the 209?
I think it's definitely coming, and it's going to come right at the late end of the race. We talked about it in Pro. As we burn the fuel off, these cars get lighter. The tires still providing that consistent grip. So right now it's Garcia, Costello, Corey, Brienza, and Giafoni, your top 5. And again, 3 rookies, 2 sophomores. We saw Corey come through USF Juniors. Brienza, Giafoni's last year's Juniors champion. He's P5 right now. They continue to find pace for D-Force Racing. He found himself outside the top 10 yesterday, and he is finding more and more pace. Max Taylor now up to P1. VRD Racing takes over the P1 spot. Still a long way to go, as we said, 2.5 minutes. Taylor, Garcia, Costello, Corey, and Brienza top 5. Giafone 6th, Papasavas in 7th, Brady Golan up to 8, Aaron Hauk for DC Autosport now in 9th, and Elliot Cox rounding up the top 10. I guarantee you it's going to change before it's all said and done. Drivers coming up here right now thinking about 210s as they come up right now. Everybody right now, we are at last lap. For those coming around, they'll get this one and one more.
And we're in the 210.0s now.
Flat
with Max Taylor. So 210.05.
Yeah, he's got a little bit. 10th on Garcia. Top 5 drivers all turning their fastest laps last time by. So the push is on. The cars are perfect. And again, remember, they start with the tire pressures low. The tire pressures have been building as the heat goes in the tire throughout this entire session. That's part of the strategy, the engineering side. You have to have those tires come up to the exact right operating pressure and tire temp to hit that last lap flyer. You saw one driver locking it up down into 3.
And if you're going to use that set of tires in the race, you don't really want to lock it up.
Probably not.
As well. That flat spot's not going to do you any favors at the start, and certainly as you start getting into some heavy braking during the race.
Taylor, Garcia, Brienza, Costello, and Corey. And again, time winding down. This, for these drivers, very likely will be the last lap
But
it's going to be close. There's going to be at least one. Somebody's going to be able to sneak through just under the checker.
Yeah, there's quite a gaggle here. I mean, you've got 7 or 8 cars, all somewhat in a freight train, all within 3 corners of each other here.
Cox was one, obviously, in the drive planning machine right there, the front of that group for Sarah Fisher Hartman Racing Development. Giafoni right behind him. I don't know if I'd want to be that close. A little further back, I think that might have been Costello right behind them as well. So a lot of these drivers on top of each other here. Again, on the last lap, if you can have open track, all the air on the wing, and maybe just get that toe coming through kettle bottoms, right? So you don't get held up in Canada. You're out of that corner. You're not losing any aero coming through it, but you still get that little draft coming up the back straight there. That's about the best you can do here.
You know, the lead 2 cars going right through there, and even back to the third car in line, you've got 15, 20 car lengths between you. It's a little bit cleaner air on that front wing. Just enough of a space that you get. If you can see the car in front of you, you're getting a little bit of wind, right? But at the same time, keeping that distance, trying to get a little bit of a toe.
Trying to see who's going to can maybe sneak through here. Because the checkered flag going to come out here right now over in the alternate timeline. There's a checkered flag. A number of these drivers are going to get that flag, and we're going to see them peel off. How many drivers got it? It looks like, I think, and that might have been Brienza at the back. He might have been the exclusive Autosport car that got it. One of the drivers has pulled in. Brienza currently in the 3rd spot. We'll know whether or not he's into pit. Indeed, yeah, Brienza was the first driver to get the checker. He's P3 and into pit lane.
Side by side of the start-finish line with this group of cars.
That's not going to work.
Not going to work.
Michael Costello, though, has gone P1. He was at the tail of that group, got a big run. Costello has gone to P1 with a 109.832. So, indeed, we get below the 210 to a 209 for Costello. It would be his first pole position for the Jay Howard driver development pilot. Max Taylor currently second. What a lap for G3 Argyros. The USF Juniors full-timer goes to 3rd, but he'll drop to 4th as Max Garcia, a 209.7. Everybody on a flyer right now here to cap things off as they work their way through 5. That is not the way to get it done. When you've got to check up, you got a guy in front of you. None of those drivers, I don't think, are going to post great times here, especially when you're making them. Why would you make a move down the inside in turn number 6?
5 and 6. Both of those cars have been side by side since turn 3.
Makes 0 sense. To pinch off a corner, you've given the lap up. You might as well just back right out of it. Garcia, Costello, Taylor, Argyros, Brienza, top 5 right now. Corey in 6th, Giafoni 7th, Papasavas 8th, Hudson Schwartz 9th, and Ayrton Hauk rounding out the top 10. Hauk, I believe, was the driver who was on the outside of that driver looking into the inside, so that's very likely hurt his chances of another fast lap. That's Giafoni, though. He's got open racetrack. Did Giafoni get out cleanly? He's currently 7th. 2:10.5. Even a couple of tenths of a second would put him up potentially into the top 5. So maybe a row improvement here for Giafoni in the D-Force Racing Machine, last year's USF Juniors champion. Can he find that little bit more? Currently in 7th. We'll put him alongside Papasavas on row number 4 currently. But we'll wait for them to come across the line. Max Garcia, your point leader, holding on to the spot. Elliot Cox actually jumps up. He's the driver to make the move. He goes to P7, moving Giafoni back to 8th, Papasavas to 9th, and Schwartz to 10th. So Max Garcia, who was 11th for a majority of the time, last couple of laps, put it down. Second-year driver, able to pip Costello. Oh, hold on. Costello could still be on track. I'm seeing who still is active. So we have potential drivers still coming through Canada. So does Costello, can he turn it around? Who else is out there? So potentially Costello and maybe G3 Argyros as well. A couple of drivers coming in to cap things off, just coming across the line. We'll wait. We'll hold. Yeah, a couple more drivers coming through here at the very end. Garcia, Costello, Argyros, and Cox all turning their fastest laps here in the last circuit. So, yeah, Garcia able to hold off. I was getting a little bit early on that one as Costello was still on a flyer, as was Argyros. They do go quicker, but not enough. It ends up being about a tenth of a second. Garcia, a 209.726. Costello, a 209.832. But I believe that will be the first front row start for Michael Costello. Well done for the rookie who now lives in Naples, Florida. So Florida on the front row, Coconut Grove and Naples, Garcia and Costello on the front row for Pabst and Jay Howard. Max Taylor leads the VRD crew for third. G3 Argyros in only his second USF 2000 start. The 15-year-old goes P4. Joey Brienza for Exclusive Autosport will start fifth alongside Sam Corey. Elliot Cox improves in the final lap. He'll go to seventh alongside Nicholas Giafoni. Then Evagoras Papasavas and Hudson Schwartz. You see there unofficial results rounding out the top 10. Ayrton Houck 11th alongside Brady Golem for row 6. Xavier Kokai and Lucas Fakuri will be row 7. Maxwell Jameson and Carson Eder on row 8. Quinn Armstrong and Anthony Martella row 9. Tanner DeFabis and Giovanni Cabrera on row number 10. And on row 11, it will be the rookie Chase Bacon. So we waited and waited, and we got treated to a couple of really good laps, Eric. Excellent job there. Max Garcia, add another bonus point for him. This is a kid, we talked about being able to come back into a championship. Also here, with only a couple of races to go, this is a race where you could stretch away, too.
Yeah, absolutely. And everybody really with about 8 or 9 qualifying laps. But again, Martell and Kokai were in traffic quite a bit and only got in 4 laps, respectfully, for both of them. I think they had to abandon a couple of laps there and got out late for Kokai with the incident in the practice session. So that could be a story in the mid-pack as well. They're working through, trying to get into the top 10. Starts 13th here in race 1, but trying to work his way back through traffic, try to get up towards a podium finish. But Max Garcia, Pabst Racing, no surprise there. Pabst, they got a few laps around this place.
They've won here in USF 2000, but not in Pro. We'll see which team ends up standing into the victory lane when we're all said and done here on Saturday for USF 2000. Both their races coming on Saturday. That wraps things up for this qualifying session. Back-to-back for USF Pro 2000 and USF 2000. We'll be back again at 1 o'clock here, Central Time. USF Pro 2000, their second qualifying session to set the grid for race 2 and provisionally for race number 3. But that does, as I said, wrap things up. Temperatures rising slowly here in Elkhart Lake. Looking forward to maybe a high 60s by the time USF Pro rolls back out. Thank you so much for tuning into the broadcast here, folks, on the USF Pro Championships YouTube channel or the app. I do appreciate it. And I get a big thank you to Eric Miller for giving me some room here in the booth at Road America. We'll have him back with us again at 1 o'clock. Thank you so much, folks, for tuning in. On behalf of Anderson Promotions and Continental Tires, my name is Rob Howden. Bye for now.